Rebecca stands in the hospital room, her newborn son crying in her arms. But instead of smiling, tears stream down her face as she whispers something that makes every nurse go silent. "I'm sorry I couldn't save your sister." Her husband Marcus freezes at the doorway, his face showing joy and devastating pain. This baby boy she's holding, he's not her first child. 3 years ago, Rebecca held a different baby, a silent one. And what happened between that moment and this one completely transformed who she is. If this story moves you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love connecting with our community. To understand how Rebecca got here, we need to go back 3 years, back to when she was 29, happily married to Marcus Holloway, and 8 months pregnant with what should have been the happiest moment of their lives. Rebecca's pregnancy had been perfect. No morning sickness, no complications. Every checkup with Dr. Vincent Torres showed a healthy, thriving baby girl they'd already named Emma. The nursery was ready. The car seat was installed. Everything was perfect, until week 33 when Emma's movements started to slow down. Rebecca mentioned it to Marcus, but he reassured her that babies move less as they run out of room. Even at her checkup, Dr. Torres found a strong heartbeat. But something in Rebecca's gut whispered that something was wrong. By week 35, she had mild cramping and slight bleeding. She called Dr. Torres, who said it could be normal but to come in if it got worse. That night, severe pain ripped through Rebecca's abdomen, followed by heavy bleeding. Marcus drove frantically to the hospital while Rebecca sobbed in the passenger seat, begging Emma to hold on. The emergency room erupted into chaos. Nurses rushing, monitors beeping, urgent voices calling for doctors. When Dr. Torres pressed the ultrasound wand against Rebecca's belly, the room fell into a silence that felt like death itself. There was no heartbeat. Emma was gone. Rebecca's scream shattered the silence, a primal, soul-destroying wail. At 35 weeks pregnant, Rebecca had to be induced to deliver her daughter who would never take a breath. 14 hours of labor followed. Every contraction a cruel reminder that this pain had no reward waiting at the end. When Emma finally arrived, she was perfect. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Tiny fingers, a button nose, dark hair like Marcus's. Rebecca held her daughter's still warm body and memorized every detail, knowing these moments were all she'd ever have. A bereavement photographer named Iris Caldwell quietly documented these sacred, terrible hours. Marcus cradled his daughter and sang to her, his voice breaking. They made hand and footprint molds. They cut a lock of her hair, and then they had to say goodbye. Leaving that hospital with empty arms broke something fundamental in Rebecca's soul. But 2 weeks later, Dr. Torres called with autopsy results that changed everything. Rebecca had factor V Leiden thrombophilia, an undiagnosed genetic blood clotting disorder. Blood clots had formed in her placenta, slowly cutting off Emma's oxygen until her tiny heart stopped beating. The cruelest part? The condition was completely treatable. If they'd known, daily blood thinner injections could have saved Emma's life. Rebecca's rage and guilt consumed her. "My blood killed my baby," she sobbed to Marcus. Dr. Torres explained that factor V Leiden affects 5% of the population and often goes undiagnosed until tragedy strikes. With proper treatment, future pregnancies were possible. But to Rebecca, future pregnancies felt like a betrayal. The months that followed were the darkest of Rebecca's life. She couldn't enter Emma's nursery. Every pregnant woman she saw felt like a personal attack. She stopped answering calls and pushed away anyone who tried to help. Only her best friend Nadia Petrov refused to give up, showing up with food and sitting in silence. Marcus wanted to move forward. Rebecca felt stuck. She accused him of not loving Emma enough. He finally broke down. "I lost my daughter too, and now I'm losing my wife." Marcus moved in with his brother Derek. Rebecca reached rock bottom alone, staring at a bottle of pills. But something made her pick up her phone and call a grief hotline. A counselor named Vanessa Pierce talked her through that endless night. Therapy with Dr. Leonard Hayes became Rebecca's lifeline. She joined a pregnancy loss support group, led by Grace Yamamoto, where she met other mothers who understood that Emma was real, that her life mattered. Simone Cardenas had lost twins at 22 weeks. Julia Brennan's daughter was stillborn at 38 weeks. These women didn't try to fix Rebecca. They just said, "Me too." 6 months after Emma's death, Rebecca and Marcus started couples counseling. Slowly, painfully, they rebuilt their marriage on brutal honesty. Marcus admitted his crushing guilt. He'd told Rebecca that Emma's decreased movements were fine. Rebecca confessed she'd pushed him away because his grief looked different from hers. They learned to grieve together while allowing each other to grieve differently. 1 year after losing Emma, Rebecca finally opened the nursery door. They donated most items but kept Emma's blanket and ultrasound photos. They created a memory box, the only tangible proof their daughter had existed. On the anniversary of Emma's death, they planted a cherry blossom tree in her memory. 14 months after Emma's stillbirth, Rebecca and Marcus had the conversation that terrified them both. Should they try again? They met with maternal-fetal medicine specialist Dr. Helena Bradford, who outlined an intense protocol: daily blood thinner injections, weekly ultrasounds, and early delivery. It would be a pregnancy lived in fear, but it was their chance. What followed was 10 months of heartbreak. Month after month, pregnancy tests came back negative. Each single line felt like another loss. By month 4, fertility specialist Dr. Richard Vance delivered more devastating news. Rebecca had low ovarian reserve, possibly stress-related. Her traumatized body was making conception nearly impossible. Month 5, negative. Month 6, negative. Month 7, negative. Marcus would find Rebecca sobbing on the bathroom floor. By month 9, Rebecca was ready to give up. But Marcus found strength for both of them. "1 more month," he said. "For Emma, for us." Month 10 brought a faint second line, positive. The joy lasted 5 seconds before terror crashed over them. The pregnancy that followed was lived in constant panic. Daily heparin injections left Rebecca's stomach covered in bruises. Weekly ultrasounds with Dr. Bradford became her only moments of breathing. She'd hold her breath until she heard the heartbeat. Week 12 passed. First trimester complete, but Rebecca couldn't celebrate. Week 20 brought news: a boy. Rebecca felt joy and grief collide. Grateful for this child, but devastated this moment should have belonged to Emma. Week 32 was a trigger. They'd surpassed Emma's gestational age. Panic attacks returned. Week 35 was the week Emma died. Rebecca barely slept, convinced history would repeat itself. Dr. Bradford scheduled a C-section for week 37. The night before surgery, Rebecca wrote to Emma, "Your brother is coming tomorrow. I'm terrified. Please help me be brave enough to hope again." Surgery day arrived 3 years and 2 months after Emma's stillbirth. Rebecca physically shook as they prepped her. It was the same hospital where she'd delivered Emma. Dr. Bradford and Dr. Torres were both in the operating room, a team determined to bring this baby safely into the world. Then came the most beautiful sound Rebecca had ever heard. A cry, a loud, angry, living cry. Rebecca's sob was primal. "He's crying, Marcus, he's crying." Warm, wet, screaming, and perfect, her son was placed on her chest. She could feel his heartbeat against hers. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "I'm your mama. Your sister sent you to us." They named him Ethan James Holloway. Ethan, meaning strong. James, after Dr. Torres, who never gave up on them. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, almost exactly Emma's weight. Healthy, whole, and alive. The first 24 hours, Rebecca barely slept, checking Ethan's breathing constantly. A nurse named Maya Sullivan said, "After what you've been through, this fear is normal. You're not broken. You're surviving." When visitors arrived, each understood the weight of this moment. Nadia brought a gift labeled, "From Emma to her little brother." Her support group friends visited, this circle of women who'd carried her through darkness. Going home was surreal. The nursery had been repainted, but Emma's blanket was folded in the corner, a reminder that this family had 4 members. 1 month after Ethan's birth, Rebecca and Marcus took him to visit Emma's grave. They laid him on a blanket beneath her cherry blossom tree. "Emma," Rebecca said softly, "meet your brother. Ethan, this is your sister Emma." Sitting there, Rebecca realized something profound. The 3-year wait hadn't just been about getting pregnant again. The wait had transformed her. The woman who lost Emma, that devastated, broken version, couldn't have mothered Ethan, not yet. She'd needed those 3 years to grieve, to heal, to find strength in vulnerability. She'd needed to descend into darkness and claw her way back before she could hold another child. Emma had made her a mother. But the 3-year journey made her the mother Ethan needed. Scarred but strong, wounded but wise, carrying both grief and gratitude in the same heart. Now, at 4 months old, Ethan is thriving. Rebecca still has hard days when Emma's absence crushes her. But she's learned that joy and sorrow can coexist, that loving Ethan doesn't betray Emma's memory. Photos of Emma are displayed throughout their home, right alongside Ethan's pictures. Because this is their family. Marcus, Rebecca, Ethan, and Emma. Some families have children on earth and children in heaven. Rebecca wants other women to know about Factor V Leiden and blood clotting disorders that kill babies without warning. She's become an advocate for early screening, sharing Emma's story so other mothers might be spared this pain. To lost parents, she says, your baby mattered. Your grief is valid. To those struggling to conceive after loss, the wait is agony. But you're not alone. The 3 years between holding Emma and holding Ethan felt endless. But those years gave her the tools to survive motherhood to a living child while honoring the one she lost. They taught her that transformation happens in the darkest valleys, when you choose every single day to keep breathing, keep fighting, keep hoping. Emma's legacy is awareness, advocacy, and a little brother who will grow up knowing he has a sister watching over him. Ethan's legacy is proof that hope can survive impossible odds, that life can bloom after death. Rebecca holds Ethan, but she carries both her children in her heart. The wait didn't transform her. She transformed herself during the wait, one painful day at a time. She went from a woman destroyed by loss to a mother strong enough to hold both profound grief and overwhelming gratitude in the same moment. 3 years, 10 months of trying, countless tears, one silent birth, one crying arrival. This is what it took for Rebecca to hold her baby in her arms again. And she'd walk through it all over again because both her children, the one she lost and the one she holds, made her who she is. A mother, forever changed, forever grateful, forever loving 2 children with every piece of her transformed heart. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Subscribe for more powerful true stories of survival and hope. Did you ever wait for something that felt impossible? I'd love to read your story.